Welcome to the Sykes & Company PA video blog featuring Ollin Sykes.
Ollin, what are the three most important accounts receivable issues you're seeing in pharmacies?
Rachel, we run into a whole host of issues with accounts receivables with pharmacies, retail independent pharmacies. You have some pharmacies will have counter charges. A counter charge typically is I may go in and buy my Lipitor and there's a $20 copay, and I'll say just charge the copay and you send me a bill at the end of the month. Obviously, that's a counter charge, and I would be receiving a bill at month end for that. However, the balance of that receivable is an outstanding adjudicated claim that has been billed to my insurance company by my local pharmacy. And that may not be received until, say, 22 days out. So that adjudicated claim for my 10 milligrams Lipitor that I take may not be, depending on the time of the month that I get that prescription filled, at month end, it may be an outstanding claims receivable. And that would be reported on the third-party reconciliation systems that your pharmacy needs to have. And you may say, well, I don't have a third-party accounts receivable reconciliation system, and I don't think I need one. Well, let me just tell you, you need one. There are numerous systems on the marketplace that do a fairly decent job of reconciling all your adjudicated claims. They tie in your 835 remittance advices to those claims. In some cases, on the reporting that you receive from these systems, most of that being online reporting through the portals. There's some good data and information that you can receive either daily, weekly, or month end. I would point out to you, though, if you have a third-party accounts receivable reconciliation system, that you manage it. What do I mean? Manage your third-party receivable system means keeping your eye on it on a daily or weekly basis, watching as your remittance advices come through. Sometimes you'll see claims that are not being paid for some specified period of time that may need to be followed up with for some reason or another. Clearly at month end, when you get aging of these receivables, sometimes they're 30, 60, 90, 120 days. Sometimes a 0 to 15, 15 to 30, 30 to 45, 45 to 60, and over 60 days, they have to be managed. If you have a receivable, a third-party adjudicated receivable that goes beyond 60 days that you haven't been paid for, you have a problem. And you need to manage it, and somebody needs to be taking a look at that. And if you're automatically assuming that your third-party reporting system is taking care of that, you are making a fatal mistake. You will probably be looking at that claim again in the next month in and saying to yourself, well, what in the world's happened here? Bottom line is manage your system, manage your remittances, make sure you keep your eye on the write-offs or the adjustments that occur. A lot of times these third-party systems will just adjust a claim, write it off. They won't let you know. It just evaporates. And if you don't manage it and monitor it, you can't see when that happens. Sometimes a claim will be paid and it may come in maybe 40 or 50 or 60, 80 bucks different from what you thought is the difference. You need to dig down into that if your system is not providing you feedback on that. Also, your third-party reporting systems, in a lot of cases today, in today's environment, are providing you the DR fees and adjudication costs that are being netted back against the PBM payments that are hitting your bank accounts, most likely on an ACH basis. And you need to pick up those DR fees and your adjudication costs to properly book that in your accounting system. So, I mean, those are the typical kinds of issues that we see. But usually it's either I don't have a system or I have a system and I just let it take care of itself. And, we pull up a report at month end because we like to get read-only access to the third-party reporting systems for our pharmacies that we work with. And we'll see all these claims, 90, 120 days out. And, we say, what is this? And they don't have an answer to that question. Then they begin to start looking at it. That's not managing your system. And you need to be on top of that. So I would encourage you to manage that third-party reconciliation system that you have that ties back into your adjudicated claims at the bench. And you also need that information at month end to make your adjustments for your accrual basis financial statements that most pharmacies are required to keep. There are certain cases where accrual basis financials are not required. That'd be a C corporation under $5 million in revenue and certain pharmacies under $1 million in revenue. But essentially, most other pharmacies are required to have accrual reporting. And accrual reporting says essentially that whatever those third-party balances are at the end of the month becomes income. Because the time you adjudicate it, it's actually revenue that needs to be reported for tax purposes. So that needs to be followed and kept up with very closely.
And do pharmacy owners who get on top of this, in general, do they find enough money that it made it worth the time it took to get on top of it?
In most cases, they do. Obviously, there's a cost for these systems. Some of these systems have what they refer to as a concierge service, where if a claim comes back and there's a difference of, say, $15, and sometimes you can set that amount, whether it's $10, $15, or $20, they'll go after those claims and research it for you. That's typically a pretty good option to choose with those systems. The systems are getting more sophisticated, but they still have to be managed, and they need to be managed on an ongoing current basis.
Thank you for joining us today. If you want more information or have any questions, please feel free to contact Ollin directly.